My mother sold the video of my breakdown to a collector for a few $100s when I was 14. The clip showed me on the kitchen floor, fists clenched around a busted mug, shouting at the ceiling while my dad tried to pull me away. I had smashed the camera in a desperate bid to stop the recording, but the footage had already been ripped from the memory card and slipped into a sealed envelope. When the buyer posted it on a niche forum, the comments exploded. Psycho kid, dangerous, needs to be locked up. Within weeks a neighbor called the police, and officers showed up at our front door in a quiet New Mexico town, flashing badges that felt heavier than the heat of the summer sun. The arrest was swift. My dad, a mechanic who had always been quiet about his anger, was taken in for domestic assault. My mother, a librarian with a soft voice, was booked for child endangerment. The case went to court, and after a roller coaster of continuances, they both entered an Alfred plea that downgraded the felonies to misdemeanors and placed them on 3 years of probation. The judge warned them that any violation would land them back behind bars, but the real storm was yet to come. When the probation officer finally handed them a release date, my dad called me on a cracked phone line and whispered, "When I'm free, I'm going to expose you." He meant the videos, dozens of them, each one a snapshot of me at my worst, stitched together from the few times I'd snapped under pressure. He promised to upload them to every platform he could find, to make sure the world never forgot the girl who crashed out in my own home. He even showed me a spreadsheet of timestamps, a cold inventory of every clip he'd saved. I felt the old shame rise again, the same shame that had made me write a letter to the court years earlier, pleading that something was wrong with me, hoping they would see me as a victim instead of a monster. I had penned those words not because I believed them, but because I thought playing into their narrative might earn me a sliver of mercy. Now, with the threat looming over me like a storm cloud, I realized that mercy would never come from them. I spent the next weeks in a blur of phone calls and legal paperwork. I reached out to a victim advocacy group that specialized in digital abuse, and they helped me file a restraining order against my parents. The order prohibited them from posting any material that depicted me without my explicit consent. When the probation officer learned of the order, he placed a condition on their release. Any violation would result in immediate revocation of their probation and a return to jail. The day my parents walked out of the courthouse, their faces were pale, their eyes darting toward the parking lot where a crowd of reporters had gathered. I stood at the edge of the sidewalk, clutching a small notebook that held the last page of my diary. In it I had written, "I'm not broken. I'm just learning how to be whole." I turned the page and ripped it out, letting the paper flutter to the pavement, watching it dissolve into the dust. Later that night, I logged into the cloud storage where the videos lived and deleted every file. I emptied the recycle bin, ran a secure wipe, and then logged off for good. I sent a final email to the collector who had bought the original clip, demanding that he destroy it and certify that no copies remained. He replied with a terse, "Done," and that was the last I heard of him. The next morning, I walked into a community center in Albuquerque and signed up for a public speaking workshop. The instructor asked each of us to share a story that had changed us. I stood up, took a breath, and said, "I used to think my worst moments defined me. I thought my parents could control my story by leaking my pain, but I learned that the only way to stop them from owning my narrative is to take the pen and write a new ending." The room fell silent, then erupted in quiet applause. I felt a weight lift, not because the videos were gone, but because I had reclaimed the power to decide what the world would see. The lesson settled over me like a steady tide. You can't erase the past, but you can refuse to let it dictate your future. By confronting the threat head-on, setting boundaries, and choosing to delete the evidence, I turned a weapon of shame into a catalyst for freedom. The videos may have existed, but they no longer owned me. I owned my own story.